Just Like Heaven is a 2005 film directed by Mark Waters and distributed by DreamWorks. It is based on the novel If It Only Were True by Mark Levy. The two main characters, Elizabeth and David, are played respectively by the Oscar-winning Reese Witherspoon and Mark Ruffalo. Elizabeth Masterson is a young doctor that works hard but without a social and private life. One day, on her way back home from work, she is involved in a car accident. 3 months later, David Abbott, a widower upset by the death of his wife 2 years earlier, moves into Elizabeth's apartment for rent. The girl, who had been in a coma for over 3 months after the accident, appears to David in the apartment. Although she appears in a human form, she possesses ghostly abilities. At first, both are surprised by the presence of a stranger. Everyone thinks that David is a fool because he was wandering around the city talking to Elizabeth, but nobody except for him can see her. Elizabeth doesn't remember anything about her life before the coma, but in a short time she regains her memory and understands her situation, from which David will try to save her. Slowly, the story between the two characters turns into love, even if they don't realize it immediately. At the end, after the family decide to pull the plug, David kidnaps Elizabeth's body, but is immediately blocked. Suddenly, Elizabeth wakes up. In a few days, she returns perfectly healthy, but she no longer remembers David. Until they meet on the terrace and holding their hands, Elizabeth regains all the memories of the time she spent with him. The differences between the film and the book are abysmal. In this regard, Mark Levy doesn't say much about the many changes made during the making of the film. In an interview, he only stated that, "I can stand writers who say they feel betrayed when, in the film adaptation, something in their book changed. I don't see why a director should find interesting to report every page of the work. For me, the word adaptation means that a person tells a story in his own way. And if he tells it in his own way, it means that he has found elements of interest in it. So we can affirm that the author appreciated the movie despite the changes." One thing that the book and the film have in common is how the subject of euthanasia is faced in both of them, dealt with appropriately without weighing down the course of the action. Despite this aspect, Levy's story is much more articulated and broad. We can see much of the protagonist's past. There is so much of medical terminology, accurate description of places and environments, and there is so much attention to this strange love story. The differences can be already seen in the names, because they have been changed. The originals were Lauren and Arthur, then transformed into Elizabeth and David. In the book, the scene of the kidnapping of the woman's body is successful, and thanks to the well-thought-out ploys, Arthur, thanks also to his friends and business partner, managed to transport Lauren's body to his childhood home in Carmel, where he will take care of her and try to figure out how to get Lauren out of the coma. Just when the narrative moves into this house, a window opens on Arthur's childhood and his relationship with his mother, a relationship that ended abruptly because his mother died when he was just a kid. The flashbacks are proposed through the reading of the diaries that his mother kept all her life, in which she tells episodes from Arthur's childhood that give us a broader view of his characters and let us understand why he cares so much about Lauren and why he wants to save her at all costs. In the meantime, in the city the investigation is starting about who might be the kidnapper of the woman. The detective Pilgett is handling the case. In few days, Pilgett identifies Arthur, finds him in his house in Carmel, and immediately confesses to him that he knows that he is guilty of the kidnapping, but still doesn't arrest him. The two men start to bond. Arthur tells him the whole story beyond the kidnapping of the body, and the softened cop gives him 1 day to bring the body back to the hospital. Arthur decides to take Lauren's body back to the hospital, pushed by the girl herself, convincing him that it's the best solution for his own good because he can pursue an unrealistic dream. After the body is back in the hospital, Arthur and Lauren go back to their everyday life. But one night, Lauren doesn't feel well, and she thinks she's dying. Arthur, believing his beloved's death, locks himself in the house for 10 days, and then the worried friends come to visit him. At the same time, the police officer calls him, announcing that Lauren has woken up from the coma. After several days of Arthur visiting her in the hospital, he discovers that she no longer remembers him. A bitter ending, which we only turn into a sweet one in the sequel written years later by Mark Levy, entitled Vous revoir. In the book, and of course omitted in the movie, the first meeting between Lauren and Arthur in the girl's apartment, in which she explains her situation, the story that Arthur tells to the police officer, and the final attempt of Arthur to recover the girl's memories, telling her their love story, are marked by the same sentence. What I had to tell you is not easy to understand, impossible to accept. But if you will listen to my story, if you are willing to trust, then maybe you'll believe me. And it's very important that you, in particular, should believe me. For without knowing it, you are the only person in the world who can share my secret.
You, lost and lonely, you, just like